you can't be libertarian and pro-choice, and here's why. See, libertarians espouse individual liberty and freedom and basically no intervention from the government when it comes to what we choose to do with ourselves and with our bodies. So you would think that's very ideologically consistent with the pro-choice position. Their whole argument is that the government shouldn't tell women what they should do with their bodies. Except by being a pro-choice libertarian, you deny the scientific truth that life begins at conception. And it's funny, you talk about government interference and you don't want the government to interfere, but in order for abortion to be legal, the government is arbitrarily deciding what is life and what is not life. They're not basing that off of science, off of facts, because then all abortion would be banned, pretty much, like all abortion, because once conception happens, that is what life is. So that's one thing. Like, you're arguing that it's the most anti-government intervention, but the government has to intervene in order to determine what a life actually is. And it's based off of arbitrary criterion such as viability and consciousness, which I debunked in separate videos. So that's, and then, oh yeah, state rights. That's a joke. Yeah, slavery was another states' rights issue. So yeah, just leave it to the states. Let the states decide. Because the 10th Amendment and, anything that's not said specifically in the Constitution is a states' rights issue. So, you can have a state like Kentucky that bans abortion. You can have a state like California that has full abortion, completely legalized, up until the point of birth. Like, you see, that's a serious problem for obvious reasons, because some states are saying that abortion is straight up murder. Other states are saying that abortion is completely fine and it's not an actual life. So having different states having different standards for something like that, not a good thing. And plus, if you're really pro-choice, would you want other states to restrict it? If you're really pro-life, would you be okay with other states having it as a legalized institution? Like, if you actually believe in any of these things, if you're someone that just says, I don't care about abortion, I'm not passionate about it one way or the other, if you believe in nothing, then that's fine. Then don't get involved in this conversation. But, libertarians also talk about the non-aggression principle. That's their fundamental thing. They do believe that the government should intervene when it comes to people's lives being endangered. Whether it's, like, obviously, if someone holds up a bank and kills a bunch of people, they would want a policeman to come in and stop the bad person. They also think that people should be armed and be allowed to stop them themselves, which I agree with, by the way. But they fundamentally believe that, most of them, there's some anarchists that think that we should be a stateless society and there shouldn't be any government at all. But the vast majority of libertarians do see at least some role with the state existing when it comes to issues of security for individuals. So in that case, you should be pro-life, because this is an issue of the non-aggression principle and people's lives being threatened, because that's exactly what happens with abortion. So you either support the non-aggression principle or you don't. But that's a fundamental tenet of libertarianism. So if you call yourself a libertarian, but you don't believe in those concepts, then it's very interesting, I'll just say that, how people decide what their political identity is and then they ignore key tenets of those ideologies. It's like Christianity. People say, oh, I'm Christian, but the way they live their lives, Bible doesn't say that's okay. They only pick and choose certain passages of the Bible that they adhere to. But a whole bunch of other stuff, they're just like, nope, I decide I'm not going to be a Christian. Like people who say they're Christian and engage in non-marital sex, that's a sin. That's completely against everything the Bible stands for. And, there's so many things I could name. So it's like, yeah, I love people who identify with these ideologies, but then completely go against the entire purpose of it, which, I'm not a Christian, by the way. I'm an atheist. I'm just saying. So, yeah, I have no respect for libertarians that say they're pro-choice. I have a lot more respect for people that just say, I'm pro-choice, I'm a left-wing Democrat. Because at least then you at least have some some ideological consistency, which is also very questionable because the whole purpose of the Democratic Party is to be more secularized and more scientific. Yet they completely deny the scientific fact that life starts when conception happens. So, that's another issue entirely. But yeah, it's just like being a pro-choice libertarian to me is like saying you're a libertarian communist or something like that, or you're an authoritarian anarchist. Just I'm thinking of anything that is just so ideologically opposite. I mean, libertarians try to you know, try to wrap around their head how those two things, how pro-choice and libertarian can be consistent, and they do think that they are adhering to libertarianism, but they really aren't. So, yeah, I don't I don't really care much for that way of thinking. Pro-choice libertarianism. I'm not a fan of libertarianism in general, but yeah, yeah, it's weird. I would say the majority of libertarians would identify with the pro-choice movement over the pro-life movement. When you actually think about it, it's completely absurd.